people will tell you gear doesn't matter. But honestly, that's only true to an extent. Getting more gear won't magically make you better, but getting the right gear that facilitates a process and an environment where you naturally get better does matter. And I've found that for me, the more simple I can make this process, the better. The less brain power I have to dedicate to the actual using and technicalities of gear, the more I can focus on actually just getting the job done. So whether it's shooting social media content for a client, whether it's something with a little higher production value, or even if it's my job inside the military, I prefer to bring almost exactly all the same gear no matter what it is, because that's what I'm used to and that's what I know how to use the best. But it actually took a while to get to this point I'm at now where I'm happy with the gear that I have and how it gets the job done. It took a lot of experimenting. It took a lot of buying and selling of different things, which a lot of people will maybe say you shouldn't do and you should just try to use what you have. But also, you should try to maximize your efficiency and get the best gear possible that works best for you. I've accumulated gear that I believe is the best mix of quality, speed, and efficiency. But for me, the real emphasis is on efficiency and speed. I like to travel light. So I only ever use one of two backpacks. The backpack will change as well as the gear inside of it, depending on what the job is. But there's three pieces of equipment, the most important pieces of equipment, that will always stay the same no matter what. And that's my camera and my two lenses. And those two lenses are what I'm going to focus on today. And after owning probably 8 different lenses across 8 different focal lengths, these are the two that I think work the best for me. First up is the Sony 16-35 G Master 2 lens. And this thing is on my camera 80% of the time. It's by far the best and my favorite lens I've ever owned, and also covers the widest range of needs for me. It's a Sony G Master lens, so it's incredibly sharp, amazing build quality. It's also insanely light, but it's also insanely expensive. But you can still find other lenses that are 16-35 that get the job done. The real question is, and the real focus is, why 16-35? For one, I just love shooting wide shots. They're great for exposition. They're great for getting unique perspective shots, which is probably one of my favorite shots to try to get. And the second reason is that the unfortunate reality of being a videographer in 2024 means that you're going to end up shooting a lot of vertical video because everyone wants video for social media now. So having a wider lens that gives you more room to work with in that limited aspect ratio has been really important. But then also having the ability to go from 16-35 lets me also get that classic 35mm focal length, which is probably the most widely used and versatile focal length in film, video, photo. I used to own a 14-24mm for my wide shots and a 24-70 for my medium shots. Now, having those two lenses did give me more coverage, but at the same time, I was constantly switching lenses, and I always needed both with me at all times. And on top of that, a lot of the work I do, I'm using a gimbal, and anyone who's ever worked with a gimbal before knows that switching lenses on those things constantly is just a huge pain in the glass. Glass? Because it's a lens. A lot of people will say that the 24-70 zoom lens is the most versatile lens you can get. And I think that might have been true at a time, but at least for me, I always find myself wanting to shoot wider shots, plus the fact that I'm shooting a lot of vertical shots. It means this lens has been much better for me than the 24-70 I used to own. So then what happens when I do need to shoot at 50 millimeters or 70 millimeters or even beyond that? Well, that's where the incredible Samyang 35 to 150 comes in. It picks up right where my 16-35 leaves off, and anything that lens can't shoot, this thing can. They complement each other perfectly. This lens is also incredibly sharp. It's not a Sony lens, so the autofocus isn't as good, but it shoots 150 millimeters at f2.8, and for some incredible but unexplainable reason, it shoots 35 millimeters at f2. I didn't even know it was possible for zoom lenses to shoot below 2.8, but for some reason this one does. And it's proven to be more helpful than you might think. But the craziest part about this lens is the price. I bought this one new for $1,000, but you can buy them used for, I've seen anywhere up to like $815, which is kind of crazy when you consider what you get with this thing. It does come with one big drawback though, and that's the size and the weight. Especially when you compare it to my 16-35, this thing is incredibly heavy. It is a sacrifice I'm willing to make though, just because of how much different stuff I can shoot with this thing, and the fact that I only need 2 lenses with me at all times. And to make matters even better, both of these lenses use the same filter thread at 82 millimeters. So I don't have to worry about step-up rings, and I can just use the same filters on one lens on the other one. Whenever I switch lenses, I'll also switch around the filters, and it really doesn't take that long, and I don't need to buy 2 filters. I use a 2-32 variable ND filter with a built-in circular polarizer, and I also sometimes use a Tiffin glimmer glass filter for a more stylized look. This thing is almost always on one of my 2 lenses, and the Tiffin glimmer glass is used more when I want a more stylized look. If you want to see a video about when and why I use my glimmer glass filter, let me know. And so, much like how my 16-35 is my compromise between having a 14-24 and a 24-70, this lens is like my compromise between having a 24-70 and a 70-200. And I know it might sound like I'm missing out on a lot when I'm going from 200 millimeters to 150, but really that extra 50 millimeters doesn't make a huge difference. And plus, I'm never really shooting in all the way at 150 anyway, just because of the nature of my work. So really, when I combine these 2 lenses, I guess what I'm doing is I'm kind of replacing the classic lens trifecta that's been used for so many years by so many people, the 14-24, 24-70, 70-200 combination, with a 16-35 and 35-150 combination. I'm sacrificing a little bit on both ends of the zoom range, but I think what I get in return, the efficiency, the simplicity, the results, the storage space, the weight, in my experience, has been an infinitely better trade-off. But like it does with all gear, the question comes back to you and what works best for you. This is just what's been working best for me, and it's probably what I'm going to continue to use for the foreseeable future. I'm very happy with where I've landed on with using these 2 lenses, and if it works for you, great. If not, my bad. All you can do at the end of the day is just get out there and create more with what you have.